This is the December 8, 2014 meeting of the Zoning Subcommittee of the Revere City Council. I'm Tony Zambuto, acting as chair from my chairman, Steve Reardon, who's away. Do you have the members of the committee in front of you? Okay. Apologize for that. We don't need the. We have a full committee here tonight anyway, and we have a full contingent of councilors minus. Right. Councilor Penta, Patch, Guanasso, and Morabito. Is that correct? Oh, whatever. All right. My colleague has it right at his hand. Ira, you always right on the ball with everything. Okay, it's obviously Stephen Reardon is the chairman of this committee. Councilor Guanasso, Novoselsky, Patch, and Penta are members. Of course, everybody has a voice on the city council. Okay, Madam Clerk.
First item on the agenda tonight is C-14-11. This is for new Singular Wireless, 550 Cochituate Road, Framingham, Mass., requesting a special permit from the Revere City Council to modify an existing telecommunications facility by replacing 6 of its existing 9 antennas and adding 3 new antennas for a total of 12 antennas at 134 Railroad Street.
Name and address for the record. I know we've gone through this a number of times. We're going to briefly go through it again.
Okay. Michael Dolan from the law firm of Brown Rudnick here on behalf of the applicant, New Singular Wireless.
Okay, we all know what the proposal is. I'm going to start with Councilor Penta, whose ward it is in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President. I actually talked to the building inspector as late as of today. He said that he asked the owner to give him to have the outside of the building inspected because there's spalding on the outside of the building. The only thing he's seen that could be detriment to the building, but inside it's a steel structured building with cement, and he basically said it was a pretty sound building. So that was my biggest concern.
Thank you, Councilor Penta. Anyone else? I also talked to the building inspector, and aside from some aesthetics, the building appears to be sound. And I know you've told me that they intend to do some work on this building since the original owner has passed on and left it to the family. So we expect you to hold them to their promise to you. And okay, so I think we're. Yes, the clerk will read the special permit application with the special conditions that are added to it.
The conditions offered by site plan review are as follows. 1, the antennas shall be adequately grounded to prevent lightning attraction. 2, to ensure the structural integrity of the antennas, the owner of the telecommunication facility shall provide structural plans to the building inspector, which are in compliance with state building code standards for telecommunications facilities. 3, the new antennas shall be facade mounted on a rooftop shelter and shall be set back 10 feet from the edge of the roof. 4, the owner of the telecommunication facility shall conduct periodic inspections at least once every year to ensure structural integrity. The inspection shall be conducted by an independent engineer and shall be provided to the building inspector within 30 days of the inspection. 5, the owner of the telecommunication facility shall provide documentation showing compliance with all applicable state and federal requirements. Evidence of compliance shall be submitted every 12 months to the building inspector. 6, the antennas and associated equipment must be of neutral color that is identical to or compatible with the color of the supporting structure.
You have a copy of this, sir?
I do.
Okay, great. And you certainly agree to it, is that correct? Okay. Call the roll. Oh, do you want some discussion? Anybody want to discuss this? No. Okay, well, roll call.
Councilor Guanasso? Yes. Yes, Councilor Novoselsky? Yes. Yes, Councilor Patch? Yes. Yes, Councilor Penta? Yes. Yes, and Chairman Zambuto?
Yes.
Yes, the special permit will be reported out favorably to the full City Council.
You don't have to stay for the council meeting. I'm sure it'll be voted out favorably since most of the council is here, and the 5 of us on the committee have voted in favor of it. I think you'll probably have the other 3 votes. So if you feel like you want to leave, you can do that.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you,
My
members of
pleasure.
the council.
Thank you.
The second item on tonight's agenda is C-14-15, Clear Channel Outdoor, seeking permission from the Revere City Council to convert a non-conforming 2-sided standing sign into
Madam
a
Clerk.
2-sided digital standing sign.
Want to hold that and then do the other first? I think yours will take longer than theirs, if you don't mind. Is everybody in agreement with that? Going to hold that till the last, and we'll call up.
The third application on tonight's agenda is C-14-16, Regina Oliveri, 107 Pearl Avenue, seeking permission from the Revere City Council to modify a non-conforming structure by converting a 3-unit dwelling into a 4-unit dwelling at 107 Pearl Ave.
Name and address for the record.
Good evening, Laureen Scatino, 1216 Bennington Street. Here with me is Regina Oliveri. She is the owner of Pearl Avenue. I also have some packets here with the updated plans for the board. So what we're seeking to do is legalize a 4th unit in the building. Just some brief history on this. For the past 30 years, it has existed as 4 units. However, there hasn't been legal occupancy at that building. In fact, the town's been taxing this as a 4-family. And when my client purchased the building in September, there was nothing in the building jacket indicating it was a 4-family. So we're here now to go ahead and legalize that. At the last hearing, some questions were brought up regarding parking, and we actually have the ability, as shown on here, to provide 5 parking spots. The basement unit is a walk-up basement. It is not below grade, and it does have 2 means of egress. It's just about 800 square feet and a 1-bedroom. So you can see right here that you walk straight up, and the way that you access the driveway is actually through Crescent Ave, not even Pearl Ave. So with that, I would take any questions.
Council Penta?
Mr. President, I don't have any questions. Since the last meeting, I went by it, and the applicant's 100% correct. There are 5 spaces there. I talked to a couple of neighbors, and actually one of the neighbors, Norman, were happy that they bought the property, has several parking spaces in their property. So look, if that's the case, I'd give them my parking spaces. So, you know, and she's 100% right that the unit was there. I didn't realize that this unit was there for 40 years. It was when they transferred the, you know, the deed and stuff like that, that it basically was non-conforming for 40 years. And I went by and I talked to several of the neighbors, and they have no issue with it. So I'm actually in favor of this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anybody else? Council Guanasso.
I have a similar situation in Mountain Ave, and it's putting these people through pains. It's been used as a 3-family in Mountain Ave, and now through some fault of the city of Revere, I might add, the records fell someplace. They were displaced somewhere around 1918. This thing has been going on. So, and I share the pains that you're having there, because it's a similar situation. And it's just, you know, you go to the banks, and the banks want every I and every T, you know, make sure everything is correct in the fashion that it's submitted. So I'll be voting in favor of this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Council Guanasso. Council Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President. Just a little overview on the 4th unit, because, you know, I understand where you're coming from. You know, the assessor's office and the building inspector's office basically don't talk to each other. And, you know, not by planned or anything, it's just, there's no reason for them in this case. But when the assessors go out and they see an inspection, they see 4 units, it's what you see is what you get. And that's why you get taxed for that. And you're going to get taxed for it for the 4 units anyways, whether it's 3 or not. But I understand on a sale, it's only 3 units in the, as far as the building inspector is
As
concerned.
far as the building jacket's concerned, yeah, we have occupancy as a 3. So we're here, like I said, just
Right.
to legalize that before she
We
leases
go
it
through
or
this all the
anything like
time,
that.
but I'm glad to see now that there's 5 parking spaces. Now, does that mean that access is through Crescent Ave?
Yes, it
Is
is.
that correct, in the way I see the easement, right? Mr. President, I have no problems with this, and I will vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Novoselsky. Council Patch?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just going to state that I'm, after listening to the ward council, that I'm going to be in favor of this also. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Patch. Any other councilors? Okay. Roll call.
Roll call on the recommendation for 107 Pearl Avenue. Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Haas? Yes. Yes. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Penta? Yes. Yes. And Chairman Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, the report will be reported out favorably to the full city council.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's up to you whether you want to stay for the council meeting, and it'll be quick. You don't have to. It's probably going to be voted out favorably, but you might want to sit and watch just in case anybody changes their mind here, so you know who they were. Just kidding.
Agenda item number 2, C-14-15. This is for Clear Channel Outdoor on the application. They're seeking a 2-sided digital standing sign at 300 Lee Burbank Highway.
Good evening. Name and address, please.
Good evening, John Pellrine, Vice President of Clear Channel, 89 Maple Street, Stoneham, Mass.
Welcome. One of the reasons I have you up here tonight is to try to get some facts and figures on the table here. We all know that you have many of these in other cities and towns, and I want the citizenry out there to know that whatever we do here is going to be compatible with most cities and towns. And maybe you can elaborate on the how these billboards are based. I happen to know that they're based on traffic flow, on how you offer financial packages. Is that correct?
Correct, sure.
Yeah. So I think
Just briefly explain.
I think there's a perception out there that there are better deals for other communities, and Revere's the stepchild. And I've heard this story, and I know it's not true, but I've heard a lot of people that are maybe ignorant to the facts on how these things work have approached me. And so what I really would hope to do tonight is to educate the people on how these things work, and so that if and when we do come to an agreement up here with Clear Channel, that everybody knows how it was, how we got there. So, if you might.
Again, quickly, we've had some, the state approved digital back almost 4 years ago. There was a pilot program, and to get the pilot program kicked off, there was an agreement with Stoneham and Medford, which was different. Those were I-93 billboards on major freeways, which are completely different than Route 1. But that being said, the $25,000 or $12.5 per face for each Peabody, Wakefield, Westboro, in Malden, which was recently signed, and I've got copies that passed out to everybody. It's the standard. It's all $12.5 per face. And again, so far, out of all the communities where we have development agreements, this is the only community where we're actually given the 25, and we're taking down 4 signs. So again, I've got copies to pass out. I'd be happy to. Here's Malden. I want to get you confused. There's Peabody.
So if I can get this straight, the standard for digital billboards in comparable cities and towns with comparable traffic flow on comparable roadways is all 12.5 per face. Is that it?
That's correct. From Peabody all the way down to Wakefield on 128, continuing down to Malden, and then also out in Westboro. Westboro's actually a little less. Westboro's Route 9, that's 10,000. But getting back to Route 1 corridor, that whole corridor, we're paying $12.5 a face for a back-to-back unit, which is $25,000 a year annually And again, in Peabody, Malden, Wakefield, Westboro, we did not take any signs down.
I was just going to ask you, did you take any boards down in these other communities? So this is the first community you're actually taking boards down for?
Correct.
Oh, we're happy to be first in that. Okay,
I got a couple more to pass out, sorry.
okay.
This is Westboro, and this is Wakefield. And again, to be brief, what I did was I highlighted, the agreements, Clear Channel with the town of Westboro or the town of Wakefield, and then usually on page 1 or 2, it'll have the total on there, the 12.5 per face. It'll also have the 10 hours or 5 hours per face that we give back to the community for public service. And again, my company's going around doing this all over the state, and we would never, negotiate a better deal or a different deal with these communities. They're all the same. Oh, I
I have an extra copy for my friends on the beautification committee.
I do.
Oh, good, okay.
And again, I apologize. These are legal documents. The attorneys from the towns get involved, and they're literally, in some cases, 4 pages long. But I can tell you that the core of these are the fact that we're putting up a digital face. It's 12.5 per face for a total of 25. Some of them may be more because I'm putting up more faces, but it's 12.5 per face in every community, and it's also the 10 hours of dedicated public service time. The most recent one was the city of Malden. We just signed that probably a month ago. It's going at Cappy's on Route 1 with Mayor Christensen.
Okay, any other, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have the pros, then have anybody that wants to speak against it, then the councilors. We'll do it like a public hearing, if that's okay. What's it? I'm just acting like a public hearing. It's not, it's a committee meeting, but we're gonna pretend it's a public hearing. No. No reason. Just so that everybody gets what they want to say, and then we'll let the councilors finish it up. Is that okay? All right, good. What's that? Because the president's running the committee meeting wants to act like it's a public hearing. I just felt that was the fairest way to do it. You have any other proponents? That's it? Yeah, that's plenty. Okay, anybody else that wants to speak? Go on. Step to the podium. Okay, of course, we know who you are, but give us name and address anyway for the record.
My name is Ron Champone, and I'm a member of the Revere Beautification Committee.
Carol Haney, member of the Beautification Committee.
And we have Eleanor Vieira, the president of the Beautification Committee. Well, first of all, I want to thank Clear Channel for presenting this information. This was valuable information for us to digest, although we've seen some of this information before. We'll try to be brief, and we're thankful for the opportunity again. I see this as a great opportunity. I see us moving forward on this issue. So this is all good. This is all good. From where we were before, August of 2013, the presentation was $20,000 and $5,000 for the partnership, $25,000. Now we've moved forward, and it's at the impetus of all of us that we're moving forward with this issue. And I think that's a great thing for the city of Revere. But the American idiom, I must interject that. Okay, I'd like to begin. The Revere Beautification Committee, again, wants to thank the committee and for the ability to address this billboard proposal and voice our belief that before the council addresses this specific request from Clear Channel, the city needs to develop a new comprehensive billboard policy ordinance in this city. Now, I'm a little bit confused about this. I heard what you had mentioned. Is this a actual subcommittee hearing and then a subsequent vote would come from that? Or is this just for information purposes and then at a later date?
Well, I'll tell you what my plan is. This was a meeting for information, to get all the facts and figures on the table. I would never hold a vote when my chairman is not here. So I made an agreement with my chairman that we get all the stuff on the table here tonight and get everything out, and we'll probably take a vote on this next week at the next council meeting. So that's the plan. And I agree with you that this is a great proposal, and it is a template for a future ordinance on billboards. That doesn't mean that this will not be voted on before there's an ordinance in place, as there is, in fact, litigation right now on another billboard. And I'm sure you watch the meetings up here, and you remember TD Video. And that's an instance where we passed an ordinance during litigation and cost the city taxpayers over $1 million, and we're not about to do that again.
Right.
And
I can understand that point, and I've also talked to attorneys, and the issue can be addressed. But I think that's an issue for the city solicitor.
right. Well,
We're not. I can't get it.
bottom line is, if you're asking me what my plan is to get all the information on the table tonight, and at the next council meeting to take up a vote on this special permit application for a Clear Channel with the 4 billboards and all the financials that we're talking about, which taking down 4 billboards on Broadway. So that's what I plan to do next week here. But tonight is to get everything on the table as far as clearing up any of these rumors about who's getting $1 million for a billboard and Revere's only getting $20,000 or all that stuff we've heard in the past, because most of it is just misinformation. And I wanted all the facts on the table. So that's the purpose of this meeting, and I kind of cleared that with my chairman so that he knew what was going to go on, but I also told him that we wouldn't take a vote, of course, until he was here. Okay?
Thank you. Well, I just continue that. So before we begin, I'd like to emphatically state that our committee is not against, we are not against the removal of these egregious billboards on Broadway, all along Broadway. Far from it. In fact, in 2013, as I alluded earlier, we specifically stated twice to the council, it was our belief that for every digital billboard conversion in the city, 2 or 3 standard billboards should be removed. So we were thankful again for this new offer from Clear Channel, as it addresses some of our thoughts in this matter. As stated, we believe the council, before the council addresses this proposal, the city needs that ordinance before they address this specific proposal. Interestingly, just last week, I had a chance to spend some time together with Mayor Rizzo and the city's head of economic development, John Festa. And they are in agreement with our position that the city needs to develop a new comprehensive billboard ordinance. In addition, we understand that the chairman of the zoning subcommittee, Mr. Reardon, Councilor Reardon, an individual who we believe has a large amount of knowledge, an inordinate amount of knowledge of this issue, is desirous of setting up a meeting soon with the administration to begin the development and the discussions of a new billboard ordinance. So, if the administration is for this position, the committee chairman of this subcommittee, Councilor Reardon, is for the development of an ordinance, and you have the citizens and the beautification committee willing to be a participant and helpful in the development of this proposal. I don't see why we need to rush. I've been up here for 3 years. You've been here for 15 years, trying to get different billboard ordinances, or whatever they are. We've heard this spoken. We're at a precipice here. We're almost there. And I'm thankful to Clear Channel to come to this point. We're almost there. We can get beyond the point. We can solve the issue. We can move ahead so that we don't have to come up here every 3, 6, 9 months, 12 months. We can address it. We believe the new ordinance should be developed soon. We do not tarry. Do it quickly. It's easy to write an ordinance. It's not that hard. And that the ordinance should address several of the following issues. I won't get into them, but basically, one of the primary things that has to be addressed, and addressed soon, is the cap. Also, the other financial issues that you have spoken about. Let's take a look at other cities. Let's see what they do. I know it was alluded to what Peabody does. I've got a copy of the ordinance. I can share it with you. I think you have it now. If you just look a little bit to the left or above that ordinance that is highlighted, it talks about the use of a permitting fee of to $15,000 for all standard billboards in the city of Peabody. So that's a significant piece of information. That could matter thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to the city. Money that we need for police, money that we need for DPW workers. We need to address it. We do not need to rush. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, we ask you to be patient for a while. Not to tarry. We're not here to advocate that. We're not here to wait months and months and months and years and years and years for a new billboard ordinance. We're here to ask. Give Councilor Reardon and the subcommittee time. Not a long time, but time to digest the information you have in your hands right now. Time to look at what options this city can develop so that we can have, once and for all, a comprehensive billboard ordinance in the city of Revere. And that's our point. And that's what we see.
I thank you very much for your input, and I think we're on agreement on about 95% of this, except all what you're saying is you'd like to see an ordinance passed before we pass the special permit. I'm in disagreement with that. However, and the reason is you're never going to get a better deal than this. We're never going to get an opportunity to take 4 billboards down again. And I've been trying, as you said, for 15 years to take these billboards down. And to say that this has to be part of a new ordinance when this can be the template for our new ordinance, it's not going to change this particular proposal. So that's my position. That's why I plan on having a vote on this next week. Now, that doesn't stop us from you and the mayor and the chairman and the economic development director and myself and anybody else who's interested in the future of Revere and billboards to be involved in. But this is a beautiful template for that ordinance.
I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So
we disagree.
I admire, we'd be negligent if I didn't say to you that we respect your position and respect what you've done so far in this issue. But I don't know whether, maybe it's because of my age, I think I'm older, maybe that's...
I don't think you are. I think we're close.
Whatever the issue is.
You are? Okay. I'll assume that you're right, but I'm not going to fight you, Carol.
But we always see an option. There is an option for possibly something a little bit better.
Well,
that's that point.
again, yes, and I certainly will. And I've kind of thought a lot about this recently, and tried to find the advantage to having an ordinance and how it would better this proposal to wait for an ordinance when we could use this proposal as the template, and I couldn't find one reason. Now, I understand your position. We just disagree. We respectfully disagree, and I'm going to let my colleagues comment further on this. I think Councilor Penta was first. He was waiting. It is this particular billboard is in his ward, so we're going to go that direction. Thank you very much for your input. Council Penta. Oh, I'm sorry. There's another person in the...
Mr. President, just to let you know, there was a Ways and Means Committee meeting scheduled at 5:30, just to let you realize
Oh,
that.
what's scheduled, Ways and Means?
Ways
I'm
and Means
sorry.
Committee meeting.
All right, we're going to wrap this up real quickly. You got 3 minutes, sir. Name and address for the record.
Rob,
Good.
325 Rumney Road. I'll try to keep my, gentlemen, gentlelady. I'll try to keep my remarks brief. Most of you know me, you know my position on the billboards. I don't like them. The vast majority of residents don't like them. Remember, it was me a few years ago that went around Ward 6 gathering signatures to oppose one, and people couldn't wait to sign the petition. But if we're going to have them, and this proposal is certainly a good start, we should drive the hardest bargain we possibly can. I mean, doesn't that make the most sense? But in order to do that, I wouldn't rush this procedure. And I understand Councilor Zambuto's anxious, but there's a lot of money at stake, and we want to make sure we get it right. And believe me, Clear Channel would love to have digital billboards tomorrow, but they'll wait for however long it takes. Ron Champeau of the Beautification Committee recommended developing a new billboard ordinance and placing a cap on the number, and I think that's a fantastic idea. And in fact, it's something I've suggested in the past, and Councilor Reardon, a couple weeks back, agreed. He said we should create an ordinance governing billboards, and my question is, why don't we already have one? What's taking so long? It's not like this situation hasn't come up before. I mean, how hard can it be? Just see what other communities have done to address the problem. Or hire a specialist, which is what I've recommended in this area to advise the city. Have John Festa take care of it. He's the Economic Development Director. Put him in charge. But one way or the other, we should have it in place before we commit to any contracts, any more contracts. And when we do decide to commit, there's no way that I would enter into an agreement lasting longer than 10 years. I mean, 10 years is a very long time. And the idea of a 30-year contract makes me very nervous. I've said this before. We can consider options for renewal, but considering this is still uncharted territory for most municipalities, it would be, in my opinion, legislative malpractice for this temporary board to tie the hands of future councils and administrations, which would prevent them from freely renegotiating depending on the economic circumstances at the time. And when it comes to money, I think any payment to the city should include a fixed minimum, but also a percentage of advertising revenue that the billboard generates. I mean, why shouldn't that be a component to it? Finally, I think the removal of 4 billboards is a great start. But who said we have to stop at 4? It was Councilor Haas who pointed out previously that Revere has more billboards than practically any other surrounding community, with the exception of maybe Boston. And now we have the perfect opportunity, the best chance in decades, to eliminate many of them. However, we should have a procedure in place to determine which ones should be removed. And I think first and foremost by their proximity to residences, although I'm not opposed to removing them on Broadway. But I also wouldn't play favorites, because you're going to have landowners who will complain that they're going to lose money if they lose the billboard. However, if you're going to have that standard, then you might as well not remove any. Opportunities like this don't come around very often. With so much at stake, it's absolutely critical that this decision not be rushed. So, yeah, it's a good template. I agree with Councilor Zambuto, but I just wouldn't rush this, because it's more important, I think, for us as a community to get it right. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Council Penta.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't know, sometimes I'm not sure what I hear up here, what people are saying. I'm against billboards, so you're taking 4 down. You're fixing one. You're not adding one. All you're doing is modifying one. And you're taking 4 down, 4 faces down. If you're against billboards, you should be cheerleading for this. Now, I just got one question for the applicant before I go to make a couple other statements. The ones that you're proposing to take down, I mean, they're not voting on this tonight, but let's say they vote on it next week, whatever. How many months, it's going to take years, whatever, how long before you take those the ones down on Broadway?
All 4 will be down within 2 weeks. Permits turned into the state.
So you would take them down immediately?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mr. President, you know, ordinance changes are great. You can sit down, that's fine. Ordinance changes are great. It takes 8 councils up here to change an ordinance. You know what else it takes? 8 councils to change an ordinance. This takes 8 votes to approve this. And like I said, I think when you cross-section the city, this is on Lee Burbank Highway. It's a non-controversial area. And you're taking 2 down that are very controversial. You're building a new school there, a new park there, that I'd like to see that thing come down last week. Too bad we didn't vote on this last week. It would have probably been coming down this week. But, I mean, the mayor's revitalization, beautification Broadway. This is, to me, is the biggest no-brainer for or against billboards. It doesn't even, I can't comprehend why anybody would be against this. It's as good a deal as anybody else has in the surrounding cities, as he said. You know, and that's why for years I've been on this council, and for years developers and people are riding through saying, no, not in Revere. Not in Revere. By the time I get anything done there, I can do business somewhere else and have three buildings up or whatever. And I think the Revere's been changed over the years. You know, people are looking to do business. We're looking to have people do business. But to put one up down Lee Burbank Highway, where there's not a person going to see unless you're going to the airport or coming from the airport and taking these down, to give them the money. But I'm saying, people, it sounds great, have an ordinance change. Wait, how long is it going to take to have an ordinance change? It's going to take us a month just to pass this thing. And most of us for it. But I'm saying 8 votes makes an ordinance. 8 votes change an ordinance. 8 votes special permits. 8 votes. I mean, you can change anything you want to change up here with 8 votes. So to say that to rush this isn't rushing it through. It's rushing it through to get 4 down. That I agree with. You know, it's giving them a deal that's probably one of the better deals we're going to get. We're not going to really get anything more. And if we do, maybe, you know, they'll go somewhere else. You know, these billboards aren't cheap to put up. They're probably $1 million, maybe even more. I don't even know what they cost. But I know the freestanding ones are like $750,000, never mind digital. You're talking millions of dollars. So, I mean, I know you're going to put this on the table till next week, whatever. But not to vote for this now is an injustice to the public. You know, I mean, in the beautification committee, they do great work. God bless them. It's good. I don't agree with everything they do. The barrels out there, the 3 barrels they have out in the street, to me is the biggest eyesore in the city. I'll keep saying that. I got them out of Beachmont, but to me those are the biggest eyesore, bigger than a billboard. And there's no money. I don't think they got any money yet in those. You have got money. Did you get the maximum? Have you got the maximum of $5,000 a year? Well, I'm just curious.
Brian, want to come up and give us a little information on your barrels?
The only reason I'm asking is last time I asked you.
All right, no.
I find this insulting that you're asking me this type of a question. We're addressing billboards.
I know.
We're not
You're right.
addressing
It's a signage.
this issue. We
Sir, it's the
just-
signage.
Okay.
You and I can personally address
It's
this.
the
All right.
signage.
Do not
Enough.
insult a private
Okay.
person.
All right,
Do
enough.
not insult
Okay.
individuals.
I'm not
who
insulting
work.
you.
Yes, you are.
I didn't insult you.
I feel
We have
you're
a difference of
insulting us
opinion.
making opinions about work that we have done.
I have a
Only
different
good
opinion
has
of you.
been done by
I have a
you.
different opinion of some work to do, sir.
All right, enough.
Done by-
Okay, that's
Oh.
enough. Thank you.
All I'm saying, Mr. President, the reason I asked it is because that motion was passed that they got $5,000 from those signs. And I know the Beachfront Improvement Committee, who does great work in the city also, is supposed to get $1,000, and they haven't received a penny yet. That's why I asked the question. So if he objects to that, maybe that's why he feels offended.
All right, time. All right, enough of that.
It's not out of order. We're talking about signage here.
No, the only thing, it is signage on those barrels, but that's
Okay.
the only related
Is a
matter.
billboard a sign, Mr.
Enough.
President?
All right, that's
Is a
enough.
billboard a sign?
Yes, I agree.
Thank
There's a connection
Okay.
to signage, enough.
You got many billboards and anything
Okay.
else.
All right, let's get back to the billboard. Okay, is that it, Councilman?
Mr. President, I guess that's it, because, I mean, people get offended up here. When they come up and speak, I got to listen to them when I don't agree with their opinion.
All right, let's
I
not
sit
make
here
it.
and I don't interrupt them.
All right, let's not
Okay,
make it
thank you.
personal. Okay. All right. Sean, you have something to add?
I just wanted, and I thank you for coming up, but I just wanted to kind of get some clarification on something. He mentioned Peabody, and in my opinion, this is a perfect example where they changed the ordinance. There's a $15,000 permit fee, and now they approved 12 billboards in the last 12 months, and the talk of the billboard world is Peabody. You don't want to be like Peabody. And the $15,000 is only for the new ones that they put on. So they put up 12 different digital billboards all over Peabody, and it's the talk of the city by changing the ordinance to allow it. Now people come in front of Peabody, put in their paperwork, and they can't stop them. So again, you've got to be careful the way you change the ordinance. It's out of control up in Peabody, and I just wanted to clarify that.
Listen, all right, that's enough. I really got to stop this. I've got a Ways and Means meeting, right, that we're already into most of it. So we're going to end that, and we're going to let the councilor speak. We're going to let the councilor speak, and then we're going to be done. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Guanasso.
Thank you, sir. Let me just refresh some memories. 1993, we had a business within our community called Moonlight Video, and they came up with a proposal. We subsequently, in our wisdom, I mean we collectively on the city council, decided we were going to change the ordinance. We got sued for $1 million plus, and we had to pay that. So I'm not suggesting that, and I'm suggesting very clearly, and I'm not an attorney, but I'm going to tell you from being a member of this city council for several years that we can't change the ordinance prior to this application being heard. We can either vote it up or down, but we cannot change the ordinance prior to a decision that we make. That's law. You could take it to any court, and I'm sure that Clear Channel is aware of their rights to how to proceed. And the second being, the subcommittee on zoning is going to change in 3 weeks. This, for all intents and purposes, is the last zoning subcommittee meeting for this year. We thereupon select a new president come January. That new president determines who the new zoning subcommittee is going to be. So, in all due respect to Chairman Reardon, who is a very, very, very good chairman, he might not be the chairman of zoning. He might be a member of that zoning. So we can't, and everything that we do now will be carried forward to the next year because it's not signed dying, I don't believe, because we're in the middle of a term. But we certainly will have new subcommittees. And so we can't really address that. So remove that from the conversation, please, because it shouldn't happen and it won't happen. The other thing being is, Ron came forward with some very valid information a couple of weeks ago, and one of my challenges were I was 1,000% for the billboard, the digital billboard, and the removal of 4 billboards, unsightly billboards in our community. Now it was challenged that there was a huge difference in monetary value given to different cities and towns. We have now in front of us documentation that says maybe that's not the case. Maybe we are getting our fair share for this proposal. So, and I think that every individual, such as Ron, that comes and rises before us, should be given all the latitude in the world to deliver what he's and what his committee delivers to be a bona fide issue and give us some information. Because if it weren't for people like him and the beautification group, we wouldn't have factual information. We need as much resources coming to this podium as we possibly can to put Revere in a better position. So I just think there's 2 things that can't happen. Number one, we have to vote on this up or down. Next week, we're given the latitude for chairman being present, which I think is a laudable idea. And number 2, we're going to have new subcommittees in 2 weeks. So that's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman. I think that we're going in the right direction. But I think that in the spirit of cooperation, we should always open our arms to, especially the Beautification Committee. And I agree with Councilor Penta. I had a couple of those things in my ward, and I got rid of them. So I didn't think they weren't aesthetically valuable. And in fact, I was getting so much aggravation from Hutchinson Street neighborhood that they removed them that day because people were throwing stuff all over. But that's an isolated situation. And this I think we're in a clear direction, and to use a pun. And I think Clear Channel's come forward with a terrific proposal for our city, and I think we should embrace it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Guanasso. Councilor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we look at this overall over the last few years, as I indicated back 2 years ago, Revere leads the number of billboards in the Commonwealth. right? We have approximately 81 at that time. The closest community had, I think, 25 or 30, right? We asked all the billboards applicants to reduce the number of billboards. You know, some of them did. They put them in commercial areas. They took them out of residential areas. All of a sudden, we have Clear Channel, which is setting a new precedent in Revere, where they're going to come in, modify a current billboard, which is currently there, and take down 3 to go along with the mayor's beautification, 4 billboards, to take down the 4, which will go along with the mayor's theme of beautifying Broadway. I myself look at it as a favorable issue. Anytime you can take down 4 billboards in one clean swipe and retain for the city $25,000, I think that's win-win-win. I understand the Beautifications Committee, okay, they like to take them down all at once. Because of the litigation up in Ward 6, there's been no movement on this at this point in time, only because of the litigation that we spoke about, TD video, etc. So no one wants to jeopardize the city's position on that. So I'm sure that regardless of who is in charge of the zoning subcommittee, they will at least get it ready for when the time is available to make the decision. We will act accordingly. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Haas. Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know we want to move on, but just a few notes. I think Rob mentioned, did you say temporary billboard before in your presentation? The word temporary? No, I thought he said temporary. Well, this is far from a temporary billboard anyways, but as Councilor Granasso put it very eloquently, that, you know, anything prior to this point would not be affected by the new ordinance. And even the one that's in court, that's in litigation, or this one would not be affected by it. We have to move on. I don't think we should wait. The question is, at what number do you put as a maximum in the city? I don't know where you would get that number. Whether you do it by population, whether you do it by, I don't know. You know, I don't know. We limit it to certain zoning districts in the city. You know, only commercials districts. And we talked about the state having a 500-foot minimum between billboards, and I think there's also a minimum distance from residences within the state thing. And those should also be, but we can't, we can expand on it. We can't go below it, but we can expand on it as far as distance. I did notice in the contracts that, through the applicant, that our agreement is for 30 years, but everybody else is for 25 years. Is there any particular reason for that?
No, none whatsoever. We talked about 30 years with John, and if you prefer 25 instead of 30.
I don't know how the rest of the body would feel.
Well, I think that number was decided through the Economic Development Committee, but I'm sure that's up for negotiation. But
yeah.
I don't see what real difference it makes.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it at,
okay.
They're saying, if we want to put numbers on it afterwards, we could. I'm just throwing it out because I just happened to notice that. And as you noted before, those numbers of the term of the permits and the amount of monies, those are one time for anybody forward. I don't believe we can go back and start feeing old billboards. It has to be from this point. Everything's from this point forward. So I just want that clarified. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Novoselsky. Councilor Morabito.
Thank you. John, I just have a quick question. What is the maximum number of advertisements that can go on each side of a billboard?
We use 8.
8, but what is the maximum that could be used?
I don't really, there's companies out there that put 10 or 12. We put 8 per side, and again, usually 2 out of the 8 is for, we have to go to mass DOTs, space. We've got to give Revere their dedicated time. We're linked to the state Amber Alert, so God forbid there's an Amber Alert, our signs shut down, make, model, license plate of the vehicle are on there. So we give dedicated time to the cities and to Mass DOT. No texting, wear your seatbelt. But as my company, we use 8 spins. Other companies, I believe, use 6. Some use 10. But we use 8 10-second slots. And again, it's no movement. It's just a picture into a picture.
But in time, technology changes. You can upload more pictures, correct?
Correct.
Now, in these contracts, is every billboard have the same amount of advertisements on each side?
Great question. The towns aren't really concerned on how many spins we have. They're more concerned with the seconds. So they don't want it, in other words, they don't want it 3 seconds, then 3 seconds so it's quicker.
Mm-hmm.
The state says it's 10 seconds. So every 10 seconds there's an ad. Welcome to the city of Revere. The next 10 seconds could be Dunkin' Donuts, Jimmy. And then again, we do 8 in a rotation. Some companies do more, some companies do less.
Based on how long they want their advertisement to stay up.
Correct.
So I'm not naive to the fact that, sure, I'm happy that we're taking down the billboards. There's 2 advertisements right now on each billboard, but we're replacing it with a more modern digital billboard, which I like. But you guys are also increasing your revenue by having more advertisements on each billboard.
Yes.
One thing I'm not sure of the ordinance, whether we can or can't change it. I'm not sure of I'm not the legal expert, but I know we do have the ability to negotiate contract, and I would like to see a change. I would like to see our nonprofits get extra hours in addition to the 10 hours.
Well,
Is that something you can go back and work on?
Well, again, most of the dedicated time is public service messages, such as nonprofit messages. For instance, like Mayor McGlynn or Dave Ragucci, the mayor of town administrator of Stoneham, he'll put public services message up there. He'll do the hockey rink. He'll do the skating rink. He'll put all the hockey, baseball registrations are up, the farmer's market. He puts student of the month. There could be an 8th grader up there for a week. Then there could be an 11th grader. It could be a 5th grader. They get their name in lights. Mayor McGlynn, and they're probably the best at utilizing it. And again, all the advertising is 100% free. There'll be one contact person at the city that emails Clear Channel. You could put something, scribble something on a piece of paper. We blow it up in color. We email back our contact person. They give me the thumbs up. 5 minutes later, you're live. And again, if we always have open space for nonprofit messages, but I couldn't guarantee that additional because it's all based on time. In other words, when I do a Dunkin' Donuts ad, they're not buying Dunkin' Donuts in Revere. They're buying Dunkin' Donuts in Revere, in Peabody, in Malden, on the Mass Pike. We have networks going. And then so much of my time is dedicated to those communities for public service. So your hours get fit in as the day goes by.
I completely understand. But based on the client, how much time they want to buy for advertisement, I understand that. But it changes. Is your contract with every client 25 years?
You mean my ads?
Your ads, your ads, no.
We sell it monthly.
So basically, can't you revolve what you're selling, the amount of hours that you're selling an advertisement around increasing our hours, service hours?
Again, I hope you can respect this. I've got agreements with Mayor McGlynn, once again, Mayor Betancourt, Mayor Christensen. I gave them all 10 hours. I can't have one mayor calling up saying, hey, how'd you shake him down for 12 hours? How'd you get 15 hours? We'll never say no, meaning if we have the time, we'll give you additional hours, but we're guaranteeing 10 hours, 5 hours per face per month for all the contracts you see before you.
Thank you. And I just want to end with saying, in a city, we all work together. And, our tempers flare sometimes, and our passion goes above and beyond. And I really don't think Councilman Penta meant anything, a direct offense to the Beautification Committee, an organization who I've been a member of in the past. Any nonprofit, they work so hard for us, and I don't think either one of us, if we say something to offend you, it's done indirectly, and I really appreciate the work you do in any nonprofit. So thank you for coming up, any nonprofit, and taking the time to dispute your issue.
Thank you, Council Morbido. Council Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I can tell you with a degree of certainty, if this billboard was being proposed near residences or in the central business district, I would be adamantly opposed to it. However, this is an area that, well, I call it the airport corridor. No homes near there, not in the downtown area. And the thing that catches me is that, you know, we're looking to clean up the central business district. We're going to take down 4 billboards. I wish it was 6, to be honest with you, because that would clean Broadway right down. But I would imagine that that other billboard could come down the road when another billboard such as this is proposed. Again, not in the central district area or not in a residential area. I think that, you know, the Beautification Committee, you do a great job. Believe me, I think the city would be a lot worse off if we didn't have the Beautification Committee. And I'm not throwing those platitudes out there, you know, for any particular reason, but it's what I really believe. But in the fact that the mayor himself and John Fester, who is the Economic Development Director, has sat down with this company. It's not like they're coming up here and the mayor's not saying anything. I think the mayor is fully on board with this. I think that he has the best interest of the city at heart. I think he's trying to, if I look out there at the plaza they're building out there, the new sidewalks, the street lights and everything else, I think he's really trying to move this city in the right direction. And there's the revenue part of it. Is it $25,000 a year coming into the city coffers? Okay, that's a lot of money. Sometimes I call the city yard and I'm trying to get a street sign put up or a pothole filled, and it becomes impossible. And it all boils down to dollars. You need that revenue coming into the city. So I tend to lean toward this. I'll be honest. I'm not going to. I've thought about it for the past week or two, and I don't think it's a bad thing for the city. If they were saying they were going to put it, you know, down at the Cassasser overpass, I'd be 100% against it. There would be no doubt in my mind. In fact, I'd be adamantly opposed to it. But I think, you know, when something's going in that airport corridor, that's not a bad thing. Would it be the perfect world if we had no billboards? Certainly. But that's not the case. We're getting 4 billboards taken down, particularly the one at the Walgreens. That's an eyesore, okay? The 2 on either side of the old drugstore down there at the corner of Revere Street, that's an eyesore. So personally myself, I'll say this evening, I won't pull any punches. I'm leaning toward this billboard 99% unless somebody can prove to me that it's a bad thing for this city, that it's something that I shouldn't vote for. I will support this. I just have one question for the fellow from Clear Channel. There's going to be 8 spots on that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, is 8 spots, is that part of the special permit, or can that be increased by Clear Channel?
Again, the state says that it's 10 seconds, and we choose to put 8 different ads on there.
Okay.
That's really a state thing.
Yep.
Again, it's...
So it's regulated by the state, the Outdoor Advertising Commission, right? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Councilor Rigo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be quick. I know we have another committee meeting scheduled. I do first want to thank the Revere Beautification Committee for their efforts and for their level of engagement. I think it's not often enough that we have people who come up here and give us some ideas and are thoughtful about the future of the city, and I appreciate that, and I think we all do. And it's a level of participation that we can all appreciate. One thing that, in my mind, this is a good deal. I think that it's a good enough deal that we ought to codify it, in some way. And if we can, we have 4 different agreements here, for other communities' agreements that have been made in the past. We have the information to put together at least a draft, and I think we ought to commit to that. And I'd be willing to put myself out there and say that I'm willing to draft something, by next week if we need to, and at least to start the conversation rather than just talk about it or think about it. Let's have something going forward. Let's have something on paper, and we can start to move forward. I know that we're going to have obviously a new president in a couple of weeks, so this will be something that lays over into the next year. But we should at least commit to codifying this deal, because it is a good deal, and moving forward to make sure that we are getting the best deal. So with that, I hope that my colleagues would be open to the idea of having a draft, at least something to have a conversation and start the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rego. I'm sure everybody's saddened that I've only got another week left as the president here. However, I said before, I'll say it again, and then I'm going to turn this mic over to my worthy Chairman Penter of Ways and Means. This proposal for this special permit is a perfect formula for a billboard ordinance. I think Councilor Haas said we have got 80-something billboards. Someone's going to be coming in for a digital billboard, other than Clear Channel. And we're going to say to them, we're not even going to talk to you if you're not taking 4 billboards down. Because that's the precedent that we set with this proposal. So, yeah, there's some details we might want to add in. I don't want to put in what Peabody's got. I don't want more billboards coming in here. I want more going out. So I'll trade digital billboards where they're appropriate in the airport corridor or, in a non-residential area for removing some of these ugly boards that really are disgusting. And I just want to make another little point that some people don't know about, is that Clear Channel's taking 2 billboards down on Revere Street. They're paying that landlord the rent for those 2 billboards that they're removing. He continues to get the same rent. So we're not hurting a businessman. We're cleaning up the neighborhood, and it's a perfect template. We can do this in other parts of the city when someone comes in for a digital billboard. And I think we all agree that digital billboards are a lot nicer than these paper billboards that get frayed and ugly. And it's just, so I think it's a win-win situation. And I'm looking forward to us all drafting. We're all committed to a billboard ordinance, one that probably doesn't encourage new billboards, but encourages taking down old billboards in the gain of, like Councilor Morabito mentioned, they're going to make a lot more revenue with a digital billboard. And that's fine. That's what the capitalist system is all about. So let them make more money and clean up our city. So that's where we are at. That's the end of this subcommittee. And this proposal will be voted on at the next city council meeting. Thank you all.